Joined on the line by Josh Hantman, a spokesman for the Israeli Ministry of Defence, the IDF. Sir, thanks for being with us. 126 Palestinians have died since the violence began. Almost half of them, as we've been reporting, civilians. Israel also lost a soldier today, killed by a Gaza rocket. Surely you can understand why critics accuse Israel of disproportionate aggression when you compare these figures, no?
So first of all, I'd like to comment on your disproportionate reporting, because you seem to have preempted my whole interview by saying that everything I say will be part of our PR machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a deal with you. Everything I say will be based on Hamas's actions and Hamas's words. So therefore you can't blame any Israeli PR machine. It will be based purely on the facts and the words of Hamas themselves.
OK, will you go ahead and do it then?
Let's go, sir. So first and foremost, let's see Hamas's response to civilian deaths on both sides. The Israeli Defense Ministry, who I represent, and indeed the Israeli public, are mourning civilian deaths on both sides. I've seen it. I've been running around the south from bomb shelter to bomb shelter, dodging rockets, hearing the cries of Israeli civilians and the cries and the wails of the air raid sirens. And at the same time, Hamas have been shooting barrages of rockets, of mortars.
Yeah, but it must be said, no civilians dead on the Israeli side.
Did you say no civilians dead on the Israeli side? So I will have you know that there have been 4 Israelis killed on the Israeli side. And let's also note that in the interview I did with you the other day, you showed masses of pictures of Palestinian victims and not one picture of an Israeli victim, not one picture of an Israeli destroyed house, not one picture. So this is the interview I did with you.
Are we talking civilians or soldiers? I'd like you to clarify. Civilians or soldiers?
I'm talking civilians, sir. I'm talking civilians, sir. I was in Kiryat Malachi, where a rocket came through a window and killed 3 civilians. I'm talking about the civilian that was killed again today, sir, as well as the soldier that was killed today. I'm talking about the millions of civilians who are under direct rocket fire on a daily basis, sir. And the fact that you don't know this, it's reflective of the reporting of this channel.
We simply have different information from the information you were telling us. We'll leave it there. OK, now the UN Relief and Works Agency has accused the IDF of lying when it claimed the UN agency had allowed Hamas to fire rockets from its schools. How do you react to that?
So, sir, I'd like to, again, I promised you I wouldn't answer the question based on Israel's PR machine. So let's listen to Hamas's words. I'd like to turn you to an interview by a Hamas member of parliament, a guy called Fathi Hamad, who said in 2009 that we, the Hamas guys, glorify death while the Israelis glorify life. He openly boasted about using human shields. There are numerous YouTube videos. Don't just look at the IDF propaganda machine, as you call it. Look at thousands of YouTube videos where Hamasniks pull civilians into the fire so that you can shoot at Israeli civilians with this protection, this human shield of their own civilians. We value life and we mourn every single civilian lost on both sides. I cannot emphasize that enough. You look at the Hamas's response to the deaths in Kiryat Malachi, the ones you conveniently forgot this week, and they were celebrating the deaths on the Israeli side.
I want to go back, though, to that film, the animated film being seen on the screen there. Again, I'll put the question to you again. The UN Relief and Works Agencies accused the IDF, your organisation, of lying when it claimed the UN agency had allowed Hamas to fire rockets from its schools. Now, there's an animated film we've been looking at there. The film in question, it's a box with real footage of what you say is rocket fire at a school. This is it now. Though, from what we're seeing, it looks pretty much clearly that it's not coming from the school, but in trees in front of the school. Also, your video there showing children involved in firing those rockets. How is that justifiable? What do you make of this that we're seeing on screen now?
Again, sir, please don't look at our videos. Look at all of the videos. Look at Hamas's own videos. The fact is they've been shooting for over a decade, not only out of schools, but also out of mosques, next to hotels where international journalists are staying. They're shooting in densely populated areas. And I know you're going to tell me Gaza is one of the most densely populated areas in the world, but they go directly into the heart of the population to shoot at Israel's civilian population. Okay. You know, there are plenty of places they could shoot at us if they wanted to. There are long beaches, there are plenty of open yards, but no, they specifically choose the densely populated urban areas so that they can use their own civilians as a protective shield against our precision strikes.
When we see the graphic footage in Gaza of dead children being pulled out and dug out of collapsed buildings, do you maintain that their deaths at the hands of Israeli airstrikes are the fault of Hamas?
Sir, I can tell you that it genuinely breaks my heart. You think that we want to see dead children on any side? As I said, we mourn every loss of life. Hamas, on the other hand, are celebrating it, and they're putting their own civilians in danger. I cannot tell you how much we desire quiet, how much we desire true peace and calm in this region. But when we're facing an enemy that's guilty of this double war crime, whereby they hide beneath their own civilians while shooting at our civilians for over a decade now, we're in this predicament that, however, with the most strategically surgical precision, pinpoint strikes, when they're hiding beneath their civilian population, there will be collateral damage. And no one wants to see it. Of course no one wants to see it. But unfortunately, we're facing this internationally recognized terrorist organization, recognized by the US, recognized by the EU as a terrorist organization, that has been firing at over 1 million of our citizens, over 15% of our country for a decade. For a decade. In the last week alone, over 1,000 rockets have been fired into our civilian population. We have half the country under direct rocket fire. Just imagine if Russia, with a country of 140 million population, just imagine if Russia had a situation whereby 70 million of their citizens were within the direct range of an Islamist terrorist organization firing rockets at their citizens. Would the Russians tolerate this? Would the Russian people tolerate this? Would the Russian army tolerate this? The answer, sir, please do not interrupt me because you don't let me finish my sentence. The answer, sir, is categorically no. Would the United States take a situation where if 150 million of their 300 million citizens were under direct rocket fire? The answer, sir, is categorically no. We have a right to defend ourselves, and we will defend ourselves in the most surgical manner possible to reduce civilian deaths on their side and to protect our civilians on our side.
Many Palestinians, especially in Gaza, continue to stand by Hamas. By all appearances, they're going to do so until this violence ends. Do you believe missiles will change their allegiance tonight?
Can you say that one more time, sir? The line is very poor.
Yeah. End of the day, many Palestinians, especially in Gaza, continue to stand by Hamas. By all appearances, it looks like they're going to do so until the violence ends. Do you believe that missiles will change their allegiance?
So I haven't done any opinion polls recently in the Hamas-run Gaza Strip. However, what I can say is that the deterrence to the Hamas regime must be restored. No country can live in a situation whereby every single week, in some cases every single day, there are rockets, missiles and mortars being fired at their citizens. And you know what? I think that the Gazan population will also realise that quiet and peace and calm is in their best interest too.
Josh, thank you for coming on the programme tonight, making your position so clear. Josh Hantman there, spokesman for the Israeli Ministry of Defence. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.